Alright, so this is my first time recording Photoshop in a while. Last thing I did was post a tutorial about just basically drawing from reference. Something really basic. What you see before you is a kind of side project I've taken upon myself so that I can continue to sharpen my skills and use the things that I've learned in tutorials through the LinkedIn Learning and develop my artwork and my art style. I've taken a image and I've transformed it. A bunch of buddies of mine, while I was at a training event, they were being really silly and they were taking pictures of me in Photoshop. Or not Photoshop, taking pictures of me in Snapchat. And they were like making it, like putting like girly filters on me. Just a little bit of TV in the background. So if I get bored, I can just look over. But they were taking photos of me in Snapchat and making me look really girly and, just we were all laughing about it. And I told them, okay, that's really funny, but I have your Snapchat photos. I'm going to actually change your gender. And they laughed and, oh wow, you can't be serious, right? Like, you're just joking. I'm like, no, bro. I'm like, no, I'm an artist and I draw, paint, and do digital art, and I'm literally going to take all of you and turn you into cute little girls. So, one by one, I'm working my way down the roster, and I've shown them, and some of them remarked they look like relatives of theirs that are female, and it kind of makes me laugh because lets me know I'm on the mark. There's resemblance there. By now, I think I've completely transformed this person here, their portrait. And because this is still a learning experience for me, because I'm not as proficient as I like to be with Photoshop and drawing and painting in this. This is more of my finished state until I can get a few more practice pieces in and really learn how to work with color and sort of how to paint more. Cause I'm used to black and white, not the bare minimum, but the basics. I'm used to the basics of just working with value. I know some theory, I know color theory. I know how to work with color mediums, like pastel and oil paints and acrylics, and even watercolor. And I demonstrated that I can use those very well. But, on the other hand, I don't do it very often, so I'm not as well versed in actually making them work together, and even less well versed probably because I have years of doing that stuff, even in comparison to Photoshop. This is me just kind of getting back into it. And you can see I've already done quite a bit of work here. So, with this, you're just going to follow along with me, and I may stop and explain some of the things that I'm doing to this photo to kind of get where I want to be with it. I can even talk about some of the things that I have done just to get this far. I started off with a very basic image, and I've completely changed this person's anatomy in order to reflect. I'm going to see if this will let me record an additional window. Go into my images and pictures. Photoshop references. is being recorded. Just this? Okay, that's good. Because what I want to do is kind of import this photo, or even just give you a glimpse. Icon R. Which one is R? There's con and then there's R. This one is con. Does this have the original image? Yes, it does. I'm going to turn off a lot of the details so you can see where I started. Yes, that is where I started. It's one of my buddies. And like I said, they were all doing this, just putting really girly filters on me. They gave me pink hair, and it was haha funny. And I told them, hey, well, I got your cutesy little Snapchat photo too. I'm gonna turn you into an actual woman. So that is how far I've come from there. And you can see I started with a layer that I call blur, and I just blurred up the silhouette. I just threw colors all over everything, get the fields, and start to generally model more geometrically what I'm looking at. And then even to see what I could change, I made everything really malleable. It's like taking drying clay and throwing water on it again, just to make it soft and malleable again, to see what adjustments you can make. And rough sketch over the top, some very preliminary, almost gestural, just kind of planning the changes I would make. And then I threw more color. This is just loose, just to block it in and make it more real. And then more solid sketch over the top of that, just to keep the direction solid and make sure I'm not losing my way. Because being someone who's used to working with lots of pencil, charcoal, and black and white medium, I like to have that plan in front of me at all times. It's all sketchy is to me is a plan. Just showing. I even threw transparency up. That's right. I didn't highlight that. I threw transparency up to kind of further mask the underlying blurred layer. That's where I did my sketch to solidify, and I think I even threw some marks, some additional blocking marks in to tidy it up. You know, and I just made my adjustments, used transparency layers, or what I call transparency layers. You know, like a film, like a tracing paper. Is what I call it, transparency, or yeah, like tracing paper. You throw tracing paper over something and then you draw over it again to get a better sketch, and then further modeled that. And I guess you can see with modeling I'm getting more formal, I'm softening things up, but then also making sure I'm sticking to that plan. And now I'm also incorporating a bit of the ideas of the lighting with the modeling of the forms, with adding hair, that adds additional shadows and distorts things a little bit. And also wanted to make sure that as much as I was doing this, that I wasn't just tracing my image. Of course, the underlying image is my reference. It is my baseline. But in continuing to go through this, I've changed things like the jawline, like the contours of the face. I've softened hard edges. I've simplified the lighting. If we zoom in really close here, you can see you're seeing brush strokes and not just the pixelated picture from like the skin texture. The eyes are still roughly like that, but even then, later on in the next image that I have, which is the one at the left, where I've thrown quite a few more hours into it, you can see that there are brushstrokes in the eyes now, and you still see some of the picture pixels around the hard exposure underneath the left, or would be the right ear, like right at the surface. You can start to see some of that mixed in with my brush strokes, because things are still really rough at this point, but I'm altering it slowly more and more to the point that I'm going to close that out. I'm here, and I use the custom patterns. I created custom patterns using brush marks to create the camouflage and apply the camouflage to this layer that's clipped into the uniform. And so I've been using clipping masks, custom patterns, and layer blending modes to get that to sit. And the same for different elements of the uniform within itself. I've also used copying and extraction methods learned in tutorials from the LinkedIn Learning to create rough shading. Here we go. We're going through the brown tea shadows just to make that more painterly and less animated, and all this I'll go over again way before I finish. And then I've utilized that extraction method to separate my face and stuff into the hair and the ears, and those will intermingle, and I will continue to work on each. Each of those will have clipped layers with masks and applied effects and work done therein to compose this. And I have the underlying face. You can see just how many changes I've made just to that face, because I lowered the opacity on the original face. Just so I would have a rough idea of where I was placing these details without completely losing everything. Like if I had turned around and decided I didn't like this face, I could delete it, the layer, and then I could just reload the selection that I used for the face. I've also been using saved selections in order to make things easier. Save selections to create more save selections. Like I would use a magnetic lasso tool, or I would use a lasso tool, and I would go around and I would select just the face, and then I would go in and then I would cut out the eyes from the face, and then I would inverse the selection so that I only have the eyes, and then from that I would save that selection as eyes, and then now I can load that selection over, and I can extract and copy the eyes onto their own layer and work on them therein, and even clip that layer to the eyes layer beneath, so that things do not go outside of it. And I've been locking transparencies, and I have complicated my drawing process quite a bit, and yet I've allowed for the potential of the piece to be a lot more than what I initially started with just drawing things on mainly 2 or 3 layers, or even composing a drawing of about 20 layers, both transparent and opaque, like I would a regular traditional painting. You can see the eyes are still very messy, kind of blurry, but the strokes are not the same. I've actually gone in, you can see brush strokes that follow the outside of the eye. You can see on the inside there are no longer those dark circles. I've smoothed those out and I've hardened up certain things. So you zoom out, you see kind of that mosaic of color, kind of creating a more complex appearance, a more dynamic look. And I kind of learned a little bit about doing that by actually just looking at the image and realizing that it was just a blur of colors and a certain arrangement. I didn't really change the picture's portrayal of the eye too much. I mainly just took colors and moved them around and kept some and lost others. And then the eyelashes, of course, I went in and hand drew those, and I'll be probably playing with that a little bit more as I come to finish the image. Eyebrows more or less stayed the same from when I filled those out, because I haven't decided to how I'm gonna model those quite yet. That's gonna take me consulting some reference images and doing a little bit of research and deciding how the lighting would impact that, and even the lighting, how it would impact decisions I've made, like with the hair. The hair style has changed from the original image. It's changed. Let's see. This was the original hairstyle, and it has changed to this, which I felt was interesting, but I was trying not to make it too ordinary, too boring to look at. So I went ahead and made the decision to change that hair. To do some interesting things, like here it's coming at you, like right in the bangs, down about the nose level, everything's kind of curling out towards you, but then you have these nice, big, thick curl on the bang on the right, and you have hair that's going kind of around the eyes, kind of framing the eyes a little bit and moving the eye down to the face, and then you have the hair that comes in and kind of droops around the ears a little bit and goes back into what I presume, or what I would assume to be a ponytail based on the representation. And the ponytail is wild enough that the hair kind of falls out behind the head and begins to curl back up toward where the viewer can see it. Still learning hair. It's going to take me, like I said, doing more research and consulting images. This is what I have before me. And the work that I'm going to do here is just going to be continuing to flesh out my main focus is going to be away from the face and the hair, because I've spent a lot of time on just the face and the hair alone, and I'm not going to detail the uniform because it's not super important, but I'm going to look at the background this time. And I've put a few layers in place just in case, like in the original there's a ceiling with beams and all of that, so I've just turned those into simple flat colors so I can redefine them as I wish, and also know where they were in case I plan to use those in some dramatic way. Maybe I'll hang light fixtures from it, or I will hang piñatas or something from the ceiling, and I may be able to reference the original photo for the lighting. And I've also just given a flat color layer in case I wish to do something else with the background and make it purely graphic. Put ponies and clouds and dogs and that sort of thing in the background for my buddy here. But that is what you are going to see. I mainly want to dive into this in its own particular section slash video. But if that's something you think you would like to see, just I don't know, drop a comment in the comment section. Just let me know if you're interested, or if you'd like to see me start on someone else's face, so that I can show you from beginning to end, kind of the end, like how I arrive at this, what it looks like to take a face or a person and change their structures and change the anatomy up to be convincingly that of another. And just let me know in the comment section. You don't have to drop a like. You don't have to drop a subscribe. This is mainly just something that I do to share and to, I don't know, potentially network, conversate, exchange ideas, techniques between other artists who are also on the internet, educated on the subject, or just experienced, and then maybe teach / mentor a little bit if there are some things that you're interested in learning from me. But with that being said, it's 9:43. It's an early night for me, but for some of you, it's a later night. So I'm going to say good night.